and if the other can spot it or not.
Well, let's see if those small adjustments are made. This is Polar Knight and spawning in the south position. The red Zerg from StarTail down 0-1. It is life!
In a straight-up game, he was outclassed there.
Yeah, I mean, it's the reason why these two players are here. And this player who hasn't lost a match, he's up 1-0 from Team Liquid. It's TaeJa! And it's hard to tell based off the cheering which player the crowd wants more. They're both so damn good.
These players are both fantastic, and whoever wins, of course, will be worthy of the title DreamHack Winter Champion 2013. But let's look at the game. TaeJa has decided his opening for map number 2. He's sending out SCVs nice and early. We are going to have a rush, a barracks rush here, a bunker rush here. And is Life going to spot it? He's decided to send out an early drone scout to try to figure out what's going on here.
It's a pretty risky situation. We saw Life scout very fast a proxy Reaper in an earlier match, and he did an interesting reaction. I'm wondering what he'll do. He won't see the barracks, but he will see that there's nothing in TaeJa's base. He'll see, okay, there's no fast commander. In fact, this drone's still parked on the natural.
Wait a minute, if that's a hatchery.
Oh my.
Nathanius.
Throw the rulebook out the window,
StarTail Life was not drone scouting. StarTail Life here wants to block the command center first. He's expecting the command center first to be on the high ground here. And without the information this is coming, and then being slowed down from a hatchery and a spawning pool himself, this is going to turn into a pretty interesting game.
Interesting is one way to put it. This tournament has had some pretty weird proxy hatchery games, and TaeJa is starting to realize what's going on. Actually cancels one of his barracks. It seems that he's making a pretty interesting change-up, actually, by scouting that there's no hatchery at the natural expansion of his opponent. He doesn't know about the hatchery in his natural, but he's assuming that there's some level of aggression being brought. And I'm kind of wondering what's going to run through TaeJa's head when this SCV sees this hatchery.
TaeJa thinks this is some form of early spawning pool here. He's decided to take a gas and most likely head towards a Reaper, I'd imagine. And he is starting to build a barracks back at home to create a wall off. But the problem with this is, though, that there's going to be queens and most likely spine crawlers outside his main base very soon here. And the Marine gets surrounded. Excellent play there from Life without losing a single drone. And I think Life has started to piece this together. But the problem is, I'm not sure TaeJa has yet.
Yeah, this circumstance is pretty weird. There's really no other way to put it. He's building a defensive spine crawler at home. TaeJa's rallying Marines back now. And the hatchery's complete, so the queen will be there. I mean, what we've seen mostly come out of this is those offensive spine crawlers, using the queen to spread creep the overlord for vision. What can TaeJa make of this? He's doing a slightly different reaction than we've seen so far. He did get this fast second barracks back home. He can build Marines inside of his base to defend. But where does he go from here? These Zerglings shouldn't be able to do too much, at least grabbing this SCV.
Well,
Marines and micro,
more.
Well, now with the queen, this should be enough to push this back. TaeJa is going to lose all of his Marines.
TaeJa's like, what is this game? It's just blowing his mind. He doesn't really understand until now what was going on. And now with the factory being placed down, I'm sure he's probably going to try to aim towards a tank, I'd imagine. He's building a bunker, but the problem is there will be spine crawlers pushed up aggressively here. And then what I'd imagine from Life is, if he's taking an extractor back at home, which I think he has, imagine if he starts to get Zergling speed. What happens if these spine crawlers break the wall? If the wall is broken and then Zerglings come rushing in, what is a tank going to do ultimately at that point? And this becomes a game where TaeJa has to get a defense fast. He has to hold on versus this. And I think it's going to be very difficult to do so.
We've almost already seen this type of game before in this tournament. They're the spine crawlers. The Marines can't do much versus this with the Zerglings and the Queen's support. He has enough energy for a transfuse even, so this spine crawler should be able to plant itself under the ramp without too much trouble. And there's the siege tank on the way. But like you said, Apollo, this siege tank versus the Zergling speed, he has to turtle very hard. Moving out of his base is going to be incredibly difficult.
Yeah, and the Overlord's granting vision to these spine crawlers, which are going to start to work on these Marines, the bunkers. Look at that, TaeJa actually poking in and out of the bunker to try and get as much damage done to the spine crawlers and Queens without taking damage. Looks like the barracks has been lifted, which means Life will take a second base now. And how is TaeJa going to be able to do this? Will he be able to hold on against the Spine Crawler rush? The supply depot is going to break. Zergling speed is on its way. 12 additional Zerglings are coming as well. TaeJa finally has a tank, does not want to lose that tank. The bunkers are trying to, they're going to be so important against the Zerglings once they try to breach this.
Yeah, the first bunker looks like he might break. I like that TaeJa's used the faster attack rate of the tank unsieged without the Overlord spotting the bottom half of the vision. Now he'll have to siege it up, but Zergling speed Apollo, it's about 10 seconds away. Tank is starting to push us back a little bit, but because of the creep, even if all of this was suddenly gone, he still has to rebuild his wall.
The supply depot on the left is very important. If that supply depot is alive, how are the Zerglings going to get to the tank? They've got to go all the way around. But look at this, Life is going to go for it. He's going to put the Spine Crawlers inside the main base. The Zerglings are going to break through, but is TaeJa going to hold on?
He's fully committing everything. Both bunkers are still up. The siege tank is still alive. The Zerglings haven't cleaned up. One Spine Crawler has to leave, the second one leaving. He does plant one inside his opponent's base, but that will do nothing. And TaeJa seems he's hold so far.
TaeJa's doing excellent here. He's going for the double Spine Crawlers on the hatchery, on the low ground. He's going to clean them up. Got to be careful though. There's still a lot of Zerglings here present, but the Marines hiding behind the tanks. He will push us back and evacuate. Look at actually, Life is mining from his opponent's natural there with drones. Look at that. I didn't think I'd see that in this game. But behind it, more tanks, more Marines are pushing out. They will clean this up here eventually.
Yeah, it eventually is the key word. These creep tumors themselves, he only has the one command center. Scanning will be a huge pain to get rid of all of this, and there's still a lot of Zerglings. Life is just waiting for TaeJa to overextend for the slightest bit. He's even pulled SCVs. He's so worried about Life bringing everything forward, and he's not producing drones. It's just Zerglings. Now he's moving in on the siege tanks, trying to at least run by. We'll get into the main base. TaeJa has to bring everything back now, trying to stop this. The SCV's not mining, losing even more workers trying to defend against this, and he will at least pick off some of the drones mining in his base, gets the queen. TaeJa, though, he's taking a lot of damage, and Life actually has his natural back home.
This game is all about improv right now. It's who can think faster on their feet, because this game is crazy. We don't ever see games like this. And now TaeJa once again trying to break away from this location, and it looks like he will eventually push this back. But there are still only Zerglings being made here from Life. TaeJa will clean it up. He's going to have to use a scan to get rid of the creep here. And eventually I'd imagine he'd like to take that expansion. But he's got a lot of units here. 3 tanks, a bunch of Marines. Hallion's going to help out as well. And Life, on the other hand, is trying to get up to a layer. TaeJa will spot this with a floating bats. Blue Flame is being researched. The army that TaeJa's building is very, very strong at this point. Blue Flame Hellions with the Marines and then tanks to surround that as well.
It'll deal well with the Zerglings, but look at this. He steps out and he says, I'm going in. Lifts the depot just in time. Great catch. And killing these Zerglings would be a pretty big win, chewing away at most of them. Back at home, the Lair and the Roach Warren. You're right. This has basically become a freestyle game. Marines, tanks, and Hellions with Blue Flame, and he's pulling the SCVs.
Uh-oh, TaeJa's coming for a victory here. Life only has 29 drones. He doesn't have the best economy. He's trying to build roaches. These SCVs are there to suicide themselves. They're going to go in front of the tanks. They're going to be in front of the Marines. They're going to take some hits for the team and then going for the win. But roach speed is on its way. 9 roaches. Will Life be able to... Oh, that's a good start there for Life, picking off a couple of Hellions there. Will he be able to defend this?
With that Blue Flame, the Hellions need to try to keep the Zerglings off of this. There's still that force on the outside. He could flank this. Here he goes. The Zerglings, the Roaches, pressing in these siege tanks, so adding in a great wallop versus the Zerg army. And TaeJa saying, try to proxy at me. There are the Zerglings, though. Here's the flank. The drone's being pulled as well. Life needs to stop this. If he holds this, he's got this game. There's nothing behind this for TaeJa. The tank's being pushed back. Life wants to even this. He's on the run. There's nothing left. More Hellions coming in, but these Marines will not be able to escape. Blue Flame does nothing versus these Roaches, and TaeJa just has a couple of nickels from these mules and a bunch of half-dead SCVs. GG! Life ties the series